Guys, let's go ahead and get started. First of all, I have to say thank you so much for being here. If you know me personally or you've ever seen me speak before, you know this means the world to me. Thank you so much for being here. It really does. I love sharing this knowledge. I love being up here, and it's nice being in a group of English teachers, let's just say now, right? So it's really, really cool. My name is Matt Thomas. I'm an English teacher. I've been an English teacher for 19 years. I teach mainly ninth grade, though I've taught all levels, which I'm sure most of us have. I love ninth graders. I teach ELD 3 and 4. If you taught ELs, you probably taught all levels too. That's kind of how we do. But I want to, so I do these type of workshops at many different conferences. The great thing about today is it's specifically for English, which is great because all my examples tend to be English because I'm an English teacher, right? So even if I'm speaking to a group of like math teachers and science teachers, I tend to gravitate back towards my English examples. But I want to see who's in the room. So where's our elementary school teachers? Elementary. Okay, round of applause for elementary school teachers. Seriously, thank you guys so much. Seriously. Where's our middle school teachers? Bless you all. Round of applause. Yeah. Great stuff. Where's our high school teachers at? Oh my gosh, round of applause for all you guys. Where's our that's a terrible round of applause. Give round of applause for high school teachers. We do work too. Where's our coaches? If you're a coach or a TOSA this year, you're playing the role of coach. Oh, round of applause for coaches and TOSAs this year. Thank you. And I'm in the category of other. Who am I leaving? Any others? Round of applause for our others. Who are there? Thank you. So I love using round of applauses in class. I'm an English teacher for 17 years. The past 2 years, I've been an instructional coach for my district. So I still always say I've been an English teacher for 19 years because I support all of the subjects, English, of course, but then math and science and history as well. And I use round of applauses a lot because I like to acknowledge what people have done. I think we don't get acknowledged enough. Even as teachers, like admin come in and say, hey, you need to work on this, this, or this. And you're like, but what about all the amazing stuff I've already done? I'm a big believer in, have you guys ever seen or heard of like positive walkthroughs? Have you ever done that where you observe another teacher and you tell that teacher nothing but great things? You never say work on this at all. No, because we need to be reminded the great things we do so we can keep doing them. And it's the same with our students, right? It's always kind of punitive, right? Like, work on this, get better at that. Please come on, thank you guys for being here. You need to do better at this or do better at that versus this is amazing, keep doing that, that's awesome. So I use round of applauses a lot, and I highly suggest you use them. I'll use them in class. If a student gives me a great response that maybe I haven't heard all day, I'm like, dude, Joey, that's amazing. Guys, round of applause for Joey. I'll do that. I don't overuse them because you do something too much and it loses the effect. So I do use round of applause a lot. Thank you guys for being here, seriously. I want to tell you a few things about myself before we get into the session. One is, and I always say this at the beginning of the workshop because it tends to go smoother that way. My students know this about me. I do talk fast. I don't talk fast because I'm nervous. I talk fast because I'm excited. This is one thing that I'm very passionate about. It's one of those things where, when you get someone to start talking about something, you're like, all right, seriously, I get it. I wish I didn't ask you, So this is one thing I'm very excited about, and so I do talk quickly. Please be aware of that, and I'm so sorry. It's like, I'm like Lady Gaga, right? It's just how I was born that way. It's just what I do. So I will tell you, I'm an introvert. People don't believe me because I do these workshops quite frequently. But I am. I'm a complete introvert. What gets me up here in front of others is because I'm interested in this stuff. I'm excited about this stuff. I tell you that I'm an introvert also so that the more reserved teachers can know that more reserved teachers can be amazing teachers. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit as well. For some reason, there's this idea that to be a teacher and to be in front of people, you have to be an extrovert. Absolutely not at all. And I'll show you kind of how I get around that as well. I do get tunnel vision, which means as I'm speaking, I've done this many, many times, right? As I speak, I have like a general outline in my mind. I'm terrible at stopping my presentation, addressing a question, and then starting it right back up where I left off. So if I'm talking about the hippocampus and someone's like, what about the angular gyrus and its impact on reading? I'm terrible at stopping, answering that, and then coming back. So I ask you humbly and politely, if you have a question during the workshop, do you mind please saving it for the end? And I promise you I'll stick around as long as you need and answer it. Today's going to be about less research and more answers. Because mainly I don't want to bore you guys to death. Like, hey, here's curiosity and how important it is, and here's the 7 papers that support that. Let's look at that. You'll be falling asleep, but I don't want that. So I'm going to give you less research, more answers. If you want the research, go to my YouTube channel. I'll give you a link to it. It'll have all the research there. And a lot of today is going to be about the why. I think it's very important to know why things work. Because in education, a lot of it's theory. And we're told to do things without the why. Hey, you need to do this strategy. Why? Because it works. How do you know it works? Because the district next to us said it works? Okay, what can I do on Monday? How can I apply it to Monday? I don't know, that's your job to figure it out. We don't ask why enough. And oftentimes, and I say this respectfully, I've been a teacher for 19 years, so I say this respectfully, education sometimes creates things that isn't necessarily accurate. And it does that because we're not getting the whole information. We're getting pieces of information. We're getting theory. We're getting parts. And so we tend to, I don't mean we, I don't mean us. I mean, the institute that we're in. We take that and create a theory and then run with it. And it sounds great. There's going to be things we're going to address today that sound great, that we're told work, but they don't. And I'll explain why and the science behind it. Now, for you guys that are coaches, that is so important for buy-in. If you come in and you're like, dude, seriously, teachers, you got to do this. And your teacher goes, why? And you're like, because that's how the brain learns efficiently. How? Let me show you. And then you can tell them that, right? It's credibility. So it's very, very important to understand why. Now, here's the thing. So today I'm going to play the role of both educator, teacher, and neuroscience enthusiast. Right? So I've been a teacher for 19 years. I'm going to be a teacher till I retire. Right? I have a background in neuroscience and behavioral psychology. I'll explain that. I'm working on my master's, a dual master's in neuropsychology and neuroeducation. And so I'm going to be into neuroscience until I retire. But the reality is we don't need everything from neuroscience to apply to classroom strategies for Monday. And what oftentimes happens is neuroscientists know how the brain works, but unless they've spent a significant amount of time in an elementary, middle school, and high school classroom, they don't know how to accurately apply what they know to strategies for Monday. So they give us general stuff. Like, hey, educators, stress impacts learning. And we go, thank you, Captain Obvious. Give me something for Monday. And a neuroscientist will go, okay, whatever you're doing that stresses your students out, stop doing that. And again, bless you, our teachers go, that doesn't help us at all. And so we need to communicate more, but there has to be a lot more done to bridge that gap. And that's where neuroeducation, neurodidactics come from. That's what today's going to be all about. So what I'm going to give you by the end of this session is I'm going to give you this slideshow with all the resources. I have tons of resources linked. The QR code will show, my voice cracked, did you guys hear that? The QR code will be there throughout the session, so don't feel like you have to grab it now. You can grab it at the end. Please come on in, thank you. And here's what as a teacher, here's what I would say. I don't want you to feel like you have to grab the QR code now. Just sit and enjoy. Don't feel like you have to take notes. Everything's there. I'm going to have tons of resources here. Tons of stuff you can do for Monday. Just sit back, enjoy. Don't worry about the pressure of having to write anything down. I'm going to give you the slideshow with this video access. I'm going to give you access to my YouTube channel with over 80 videos highlighting the best teaching strategies based on neuroscience and behavioral psychology. If you're a coach, I have them there for all subjects, so you can share with the other coaches, or if you're like me, supporting all subjects. And then I'm going to give you this recorded presentation literally right now. So it's being recorded. The camera's right there. It's just on me, only on me. So I'm going to have it linked as well, probably this afternoon or tomorrow. So you'll be able to have that in case you're like, oh, what was that again? I forgot that one thing. And then plenty of resources as well, because that's the goal of all this. So really quickly, let me give you my background in behavioral psychology and neuroscience. I think it's important to know so you see kind of like how I'm looking at this, right? The lens that I'm looking at this through. So before I was a teacher, I've been a teacher 19 years. Before I was a teacher, I owned a small business. I was a kickboxer. I owned a kickboxing gym. And I had that for 10 years. And so like many small business owners, I read a lot of business books. And business books are all about behavioral psychology, right? How to make your clients feel appreciated and valued, how to get them excited to come to you, how to get them excited when they're there, and how to show them what you're giving them is valuable for the real world. And so I think that being a classroom teacher is the closest thing to owning a business. Because we have our clients, we have our students, we have our admin, and we have the parents. We have to make our students feel valued and appreciated. We have to make them excited to come to us when they're not with us, excited to be with us when they are with us, and make sure that what we're giving them can be applied to their outside world. And so when I became a high school teacher, it was actually one of my students, Kevin. He was a 15-year-old. He was a very angry teenager. He did not have a dad in his life. He's a big metal guy. I'm a big metal guy. And he came to class one day, and he was very angry. I'm like, dude, Kevin, what's up? And he goes, I hate my teachers. And I'm like, why? And he goes, they don't get me. And he looks at me and he says, you get me. I wish you were my teacher. And I went, huh. And it was like, I'm going to be a high school teacher. And that's what happened. Finished my degree, sold my business, got into high school. And what I did when I walked into the classroom, I took all of my knowledge about behavioral psychology from my business and applied it to the classroom. And I had instant success. I won many local teachers awards, including Teacher of the Year. My students were #1 in the district for 16 years in a row on their district tests. I say that not to brag, I say that for credibility only. I'm not a teach to the test guy. Tests are not accurate indicators of IQ, and they're not accurate indicators of long-term success and happiness. What tests are an easy way to compare one school to another school. But I had that instant success right away, and a lot of it was just a byproduct of how my students felt in my class. They enjoyed my class. And I also got a lot of praise with parents, and I won't spend the time explaining how and why, because for time waste, but I did link a video that I put out on how I did it. It's linked to the session. Also, if you're not comfortable, remember I told you I'm a more reserved teacher. No, I'm a more reserved person, not necessarily a more reserved teacher. If you're not comfortable talking to parents, because we don't always know, we know how we are, we don't always know how the parents will react. I also included 2 scripts that I used based on psychology, how to talk to parents, how to start, like literally scripts you can use. They are in Spanish as well. And I linked a video on how I use them and why I wrote them that way. Because the why is so important, right? To be able to justify. Now, the reason I'm into neuroscience, like full on, is because of this girl. This is my daughter. Her name's Sophia. She's 7 years old. She means the world to me. And when my wife was pregnant, so we know, we're teachers. We know, like, not all parents are supportive parents, or, we wish they were all, great, amazing parents. And we know that not every child has that. So when my wife was pregnant, I went, shoot, I'm like Eminem. I got one shot at this. I got one shot to be a great dad, and I wanted to be a great dad. So I bought every baby brain book I could find. And so I started reading them all, and one book specifically talked about developmental leaps, or Wonder Weeks. If you're a parent, you might know Wonder Weeks, right? So week 1, it explains everything what babies' brains go through. Week 1 is this. By week 7, they're going to have this. By week 13, by week 32, etc. When a baby goes through a tantrum, here's exactly what happens. Here's how to stop it, and here's how to not have a tantrum in the first place. And I went through everything, and I went to my wife and I said, we have the answers to the world's most difficult test. Welcome, please come on in. How to raise a baby. And my wife looks, and she wasn't as excited as I was. She's like, nah, just highlight it. And so I did. Please, there's plenty of chairs where it'd be like. So I said, please, yeah. So I highlighted it, and I gave it to her. I said, here, read this. And it was amazing. And so what I thought was that got me started, right? So I had a background in psychology already. But then, so what I started going is, oh my gosh, so teachers tend to comment about the way teenagers act. Teenagers tend to be rude sometimes when they talk back. They tend to not have organizational skills. They tend to not have they don't think of long-term consequences. They think more about what their friends think about them than their parents and adults, etc. And so the way people talk about teenagers is very consistent. I wonder if there's a developmental reason for it. Maybe teenagers go through the same developmental stages that babies do. So I deep dived into it, and they absolutely do. Everything, now unless there's a developmental issue, that's different. But everything teenagers do can be described by what developmental level or developmental stages they're at. And I've got links to that as well. And so, I should say, one thing too I didn't mention too is, so teenagers do go through developmental leaps. They're not as cute as when babies go through them, right? Can we acknowledge that? But it's so important that teenagers go through those developmental stages, or they're going to sleep on our couch forever. And we don't want that. We want them to challenge us at times. We want, and to them, they don't even know they're challenging us, right? There's a lot of teenagers modeling the way people speak to them. And we'll address that a little bit later on. But what I don't address in this one, because this is English specific, we're going to talk about like why our students have difficulty writing and reading. Whatever I don't address that you're interested in, you can check on my YouTube channel. I've got the videos that explains everything there. So the takeaway from this is that I use rounds of applauses quite frequently, not every day, but if I hear a student who says something that's amazing, or a student says something that I haven't heard all day, I'll give them rounds of applauses. What that'll do also is it'll spike the level of interest. I'm going to explain how to get our students to respond in class as well. It'll spike their level of interest and tell every other student that it's okay to respond in our class. I'll talk about that a little bit later. Students do go through developmental stages, though it's not always cute when they do. But we have to understand, so if you're, and I teach high school, so I do reference teenagers a lot. So for the elementary school teachers, please just kind of scale it to your level. Just go, even if I'm saying, hey, a teenager goes through developmental stages, you would go, okay, so do my elementary school students. So I'll reference that as well. Sometimes, I will address this, sometimes what our standards are asking our students to do, sometimes it doesn't align with their brain development at the time. I'm going to talk about that when I get to analysis and why that's very challenging for some teenagers. And I will say this, as I mentioned, I am an introverted person. The reason I'm up here doing this and that I do this quite frequently is because I'm very interested in it. I can say this without a shadow of a doubt. You can do anything you want if you're interested enough to do it. And so can our students. Throughout this session, we're going to be breaking some learning myths. They will all tie into instruction. First myth we're going to break is that all students need to talk. So as I mentioned, I am a more reserved teacher. Okay, neuroscientists use metaphors to explain very complex information and make it more accessible. Which as teachers, especially English teachers, we do that a lot, right? We use metaphors and analogies to explain stuff. Because it's a metaphor, we don't always get the whole information, right? We're just getting the end result, the metaphor. So I'm going to use a metaphor, which I'll use throughout this session. So in our classroom, there's two types of learners. Now, there's tons of types of learners, right? But I'm just choosing the metaphor for this specific example. So there's the first type, which are observer reflectors. And again, this all goes back to the myth that students need to talk. Because we're told that, right? You got to get all your students talking. Don't let your student hide in the corner. We're told that. But the reality is this. I'm an observer reflector. I'm the kind of person that sits in the back. I've got long legs, first of all. I need to kind of stretch out a little bit. I'm not shy, but I like to sit in the back and take in what everybody says. I like to look at them when they're speaking. And I like to think about it and reflect and then come to a response. Not 30 seconds later. Sometimes it takes me a day. So in education, we're taught, hey, can you respond? Oh, you don't have a response? I'm coming back to him. Yay, I'm coming back to him. If it were me, I don't need 2 minutes. I need another day. Because if I get called on, I'm going to say something, hope it sounds good, reflect all day hoping it didn't sound stupid, and then feel bad if it did. Because I'm an observer reflector. I need some time. You want a good response from me? Give me the next day. I'll come up with something good. How many of you, by show of hands, are observer reflectors? You need that time to surprise. You see, there's half of us. There's over half of us in here. Thank you guys so much. So there's the observer reflectors. And when we're called out, that puts the pressure on us. I'll explain in the brain what's going on with that. And so that's not the best thing to do with observer reflectors. Now, there's the other type of student who's a listener and a responder, a speaker responder. So what they do this is how they best process. They hear what we're saying, they need to reiterate it or respond to it and add on to it. They're creating a connection in their brain. We need those. We need the students that when we ask a question, boom, their hands shoot up. We're taught sometimes in education to suppress that. Joey, you always raise your hand. Give someone else a turn. I just shut Joey down. And he's one of my biggest assets in class because I need him to respond when no one else will. There's nothing wrong with looking around, scanning, Joey's hands up, scanning, Joey, thank you. And praising him for helping me out, right? So there are students, and that includes the student that when you're explaining the nurse as the comic relief in Romeo and Juliet, and the student mumbles and goes, dude, your mom's a comic relief. We go, stop talking when I'm talking. But he's making a connection. He needs to do that. He now knows what comic relief is because apparently his friend is like the nurse, right? His friend's mom is like the nurse. So it may seem rude to us. They're actually doing it. It's okay. They're processing that way. Let me ask you, how many of you are a speaker responder? You're the students that, perfect. Thank you guys so much. We need you. And so the reason I'm saying that is sometimes it's pushed in education. Have you guys used equity sticks, equity cards, call on students, force them to talk? If they don't talk, come back to them. I'm just telling you that it doesn't necessarily align with how the brain processes the best. There's nothing wrong, of course. I'll do this. I'll tell my students sometimes if no one's raised their hand, I'm going to talk to you about how to get students to respond. Let me pause and I'll address it at that time. When students don't respond, I'll share what I do. So let's break that learning myth. Anyway, so the takeaway from this is it's okay to let your observers be observers and let your speakers be speakers. Nothing wrong with that. So let's get into what is brain-based learning. There are oftentimes, in marketing, there's terms that aren't regulated. One of them would be, of course, like superfoods, not regulated. If something's like made with real fruit, it only legally has to be 1%, and then they can put made with whole wheat, right? Made with whole grain, just 1%. Brain-based learning is turning into something like that. It's a term that's not regulated, but if you slap on a label on a textbook that says brain-based learning, it adds instant credibility to a curriculum. The reality is all learning is brain-based learning, because learning can't happen without the brain. And that includes a teacher who gives a packet on Monday and says, here you go, class, I'll be back Friday to pick it up, and sits down all week. One of the most inefficient ways to teach, it's still brain-based learning. So be careful. You're going to see terms like based on the brain, how the brain learns, teach to the brain. You're going to hear terms like science of, and they just slap another word after it. But we as teachers, we have to be able to look and be able to break through that and go, look, all learning is brain-based learning. What we want as teachers is what's the most efficient way for the brain to learn. That's what we're looking for. So the question is, you're like, thank you, Matt. What is the most efficient way for the brain to learn? Well, to answer that, which we will in just a few minutes, we have to look at how the brain really does learn. So there's a lot of incomplete information out there. I'm going to tell you exactly how the brain learns, which will explain everything your students do. It'll explain everything we do. It'll explain why my friend, who was in the military, hears a sprinkler and jumps. It'll explain why if someone got bit by a dog when they were 2, they might now have a fear of dogs even if they're in their 20s. So the brain learns by 3 things. We have to remember this as a teacher. This is so important for teachers to know. Action, prediction, reaction. So every time an action happens, our brain runs that action through every experiences we had. It will now predict what is about to happen. It will send neuromodulators through our body, and we interpret those as feelings. And thus, we feel a certain way. So I'm going to give you 2 examples. So let's say you're in a room, someone walks in a room. The action is that person walked in, you see that person. So now your brain's going through every scenario you've had or experience you've had with that person, realizes, oh my gosh, okay, that person's really cool, that person makes you feel really good, that person's trusting, so we're going to, raise your dopamine level because you're anticipating a really good experience. We're going to calm you down a little bit, and it turns out, let's say that the reaction is, let's say it's your best friend, right? Now that happens in milliseconds, split seconds. Different scenario. Person comes in the room, you see that person, your brain's going through every experience you've ever had with that person, and your brain's going, and it starts to predict what's going to happen next. So your brain then goes, ooh, every time you're with that person, he or she makes you feel really bad, doesn't value you as a person, insults you, uses sarcasm, mean sarcasm. So we're going to raise your cortisol level, so you start hyperventilating just a bit in case you have to run out the door. Don't tell that person anything because you know it's going to be spread around as gossip. Better yet, just get out of the room. Your body, now it's at split seconds, your body does that. That's all based on action, prediction, reaction. So if you've ever seen me speak before, maybe you saw you saw me on the list, you're like, oh wow, that's really cool. That guy's prediction, that guy's pretty cool, we're gonna learn some great stuff. Reaction, I'm excited to be here. Imagine this though. Now we're English teachers, right? So let's say math, because everyone loves English, right? Let's say math teacher. So you're a student, and again, I work with high school, so I'm gonna use high school as an example. You're a 9th grade student who all throughout that student's life has never really enjoyed a certain class from a certain teacher. Never had a teacher that really explained math to where that student enjoyed it and got it and understood it. And maybe that student's math teacher last year was just mean. And so that person now is coming to our class. Let me use an English example, right? Let's say their middle school teacher, English teacher, just wasn't the best. It was dull, very confusing. So now if we're high school, they come to us the first day. The action is they show up in my English class. The prediction, their brain goes, oh, it's English, this is boring. You are not going to like it. And the reaction is they're not going to put their best effort into it. This isn't necessarily something they can control, right? And so here's the good thing. Every interaction we have with our students is an opportunity to confirm a prediction or change a prediction. So let me go back to the example where the guy who's a jerk comes into the room. You're sitting there working, guy comes in who's a jerk to you, your brain's like, dude, seriously, like, you don't want to talk to that guy, he's a jerk. And he comes up to you and he says, look, I have to apologize. I've been so bad to you, so mean to you. It's totally on me, it's not on you. I've had a lot of personal things to deal with. No excuses, that's a me thing. I'm so sorry, I'm going to treat you with the respect you deserve, and I hope you forgive me. So that action that just happened, your brain is now going to filter every new experience with that person through that one as well. And since that's the newest one, that'll be on the hierarchy of experiences. So maybe next time you see that person, your brain's going to go, hey, last time he wasn't a jerk to you. Maybe this time he won't be. And so your body is going to send neuromodulators in a different form and formula to where you're not afraid or mad or want to get out of the room. That's called plasticity. That's called learning. When our brain, which loves to be right about its predictions, is wrong about a prediction, then it starts to learn. That's learning. So, going back, if you have a student that you've never had a good experience with, come Monday, you can absolutely change that experience. You have that opportunity. If a student's brain is wired a certain way, keep in mind, let's say I'm a guy, obviously, right? Let's say my student had never had like a strong male figure in his or her life. And he comes to my class and goes, oh, God, that guy's a jerk. I have an opportunity to change that. Or I have an opportunity to confirm that. So we have to think about that as teachers. I think that's so important. So the takeaway is, be understanding as to why our students do what they do. Because a lot of them we can't control what happens outside their life. We can only control what happens in our room. So it's be understanding like, gosh, that my student is so hard. He's like kind of mean. Well, there's a reason for it. He's had a lot of rough times going on in his life. And the best thing we can do is change the prediction that his brain is about to have. So, and also every interaction we have with that person is an opportunity to change that. Or confirm it, right? Or confirm it as well. So before we get into why our students have challenges with certain things in English especially, let's have the talk, the textbook talk. So one of the things that I think that every teacher should know is how textbooks are written. So I was having a conversation with a gentleman who works for one of the big textbook companies. He wouldn't say which one, but he said, I would know it. We would all know it. And he said that he was working with his team. His job was to create the textbook for the new adoption coming up. And he told me this. He says his bosses told him and his team that they need to make the textbook as dry as possible. His words were vanilla as possible. And he said the reason being is because there's millions of dollars at stake for these textbook adoptions for districts. And if they supported innovative strategies, let's say this gentleman put a bunch of innovative strategies in this particular textbook, or a certain type of writing style that the district didn't support, the district's not even going to look at it. So I don't know if you guys do, we do in our district, we do Axes paragraph writing. Some of you may do ACEs, Step Up to Writing, Jane Schaefer, relatively the same. But let's say a textbook was like, super innovative, fun strategies. Here's Axes paragraph writing. Because you guys know the textbooks don't give specifics on how to write. They just say write a short story. Yeah. Good luck, I hope you know how to. Right? Here, write a paragraph. And then it's up to us to have to kind of create how, right? The reason being is because they don't put the specifics in the textbook, because if not, they could lose millions of dollars if my district doesn't support the way they do it. So they write it as dry as possible. The reason I'm telling you that is because sometimes there's teachers that let the textbook drive the instruction versus letting the textbook support our instruction. And it is so important for us to drive the instruction and allow the textbook to support it. Because imagine the teacher who thinks she's doing the right thing or he's doing the right thing. Because their district is, hey, got to stick to the textbook, which is great. The textbook has many resources. Use those resources to support your instruction. But imagine this teacher who doesn't know any different. Day one, hey guys, let's open the page to page 1. And reads from the textbook. And wonders why he or she, the students, are not engaged. Because it's not intended to be that. Right? And we need to drive that instruction. So now that we've had the talk, now what is the most efficient way for the brain to learn? Let's address that. The first component of efficient learning, beyond a shadow of a doubt, is curiosity. So we're born with an innate curiosity. Right? We're curious from birth. We need that to grow and survive and go on. Right? We stick our fingers in front of our eyes because we're curious. When we're done being curious, we stop. We stick our toes in our mouth because we're curious. Probably not as adults, but as babies because we're curious, right? When we're done, we stop. We roll over because we're curious. We walk because we're curious. We crawl, all those things. People will identify fear of missing out. It's misidentified. It's not fear of missing out. It's curiosity. Tell all your students they can look in a box except for Joey. Joey, you can't look in the box. He doesn't feel like he's missing out. He's curious what's in that box. Knowing all that, we have to understand the power of dopamine. So, how many of you know what this is? This is, I forgot what it's called. It's a surprise ball. Yeah, the yellow surprise ball, right. So many, Disney has them, Star Wars has them now. These are dopamine getters. My daughter loves these. And I tell her, that's a dopamine getter, and she goes, I know. I'd rather buy her the actual toy rather than her getting a bunch of junk that she's never going to play with. But this is amazing for dopamine. So dopamine sometimes is misunderstood. And again, it's one of those things where it's not wrong, it's just sometimes inaccurate. Dopamine isn't necessarily a feel-good hormone. It's latched in with the feel-good hormones. It could make you feel good, but dopamine also gets, you also get dopamine when you're mad, angry, sad, etc. So it's not always a feel-good hormone. But dopamine is definitely there for anticipation. So vacation is coming up, shot of dopamine. Holidays coming up, shot of dopamine. You guys saw this session on your agenda, shot of dopamine, hopefully. The thing to understand about dopamine though, dopamine is fleeting. It will come and go really quickly. It's also very addicting. That's why we need to understand curiosity will come and go really quickly. Curiosity will get the fire started. It's my job to keep you interested. Curiosity will get our students' attention. It's our jobs to keep them interested. So, true story, when my daughter and I went to Target to look for that, I found this one before I found this one. So I'm like, Sophia, what do you think? And she goes, great, I found one too. Now I'm stuck though. Because she knows she's getting this after the session. Because I said, I'm going to use it for the session. She's like, can I have it after? I'm like, yeah. And she's like, oh, dopamine. But I already showed her this. How do I put this back? Because she brought that. So I'm giving her this one today. Saving that one for another time. But dopamine is amazing. We can use that because knowing that, we will create lessons to get our students going, ooh, excited. I'll show you how to do that. So the thing that will make the biggest impact on student success right away, curiosity. We've got to get our students curious. That will create dopamine. Dopamine's addicting. Here's the thing. If you're the teacher that always gets your students curious or interested, their brain is going to be addicted to that. And remember I talked about action, prediction, reaction? When they think of you, they're going to get excited to be in your class. Let's say they're in second period, which they do not like at all, but they like your class. Then they go, oh my gosh, third period, Mrs. Johnson, yay! Their brains will start to do that every single day. Now that doesn't mean every single day you have to put on a performance and spark curiosity. We know we're English teachers. Some days you just have to write the essay. We know sometimes you just have to do the district test. We know that. But if the majority of our lessons spark curiosity, keep our students interested, their brain is going to wire to identify you as their favorite teacher or one of their favorite teachers. So curiosity leads to interest. Interest leads to motivation. Motivation leads to intrinsic learning. If our students get motivated, they'll teach themselves. That's what we want. That's why I'm standing here as an introvert sharing neuroscience, is because intrinsic learning. I love this stuff. Curiosity, my wife was pregnant and I wanted to be a good dad for my daughter. Curiosity led to interest. Interest leads to motivation. Motivation is why I'm here. So, our textbooks, going back to that, our textbooks will misidentify interest builders. Remember, curiosity sparks the fire. Interest keeps it going. So they will say something like this, interest starter. Have you ever had an experience where you learned a valuable lesson?
No.
That's not an interest starter, that's a question. We need to spark the curiosity first. Guys, let me tell you about the time when I got jumped outside of Carl's Jr. by 3 people. And it involved me breaking someone's leg. True story. Now I got my teenagers curious. You see what I just did? Curiosity is fleeting though, 2 to 3 seconds. I'll start class with that. I start class with music, heavy metal music. Once the bell rings, I start music. It gives them 30 seconds to know, get your paper and pencil out. I'm taking roll during that 30 seconds. As soon as the music stops, they know every day it's the same song. I start talking. And the second I start talking, I tell them that, and they're like, huh? And then I tell them the story. I got their interest. I sparked it. Then I tell the story. We'll talk about how important quick writes are, which many of you know. We're English teachers. We use them. But it's the right type of quick writes. We'll talk about that. So make sure that when you're setting your lessons up to do an interest builder, you've got to do something that sparks that curiosity first. Okay, here's one of the resources that I've included with you. This is how I spark curiosity in my classes. Now, I'm going to be very vulnerable with you. I am not someone who tends to take other people's stuff. I'm not meaning I didn't research this and get this from someone's Google. This is my stuff, which means it may not fit with you and your personality. The point is, it's more of an example of what I'm doing. If you love it, great. Do something that fits your personality. To me, if I share resources, it's inauthentic if I haven't done it. Because how do I know it works? I've never done it. Let me show you some of the things I do. Okay, first of all, I have a kind of an immature sense of humor. But when I love to use statements of intrigue. Like when I start class, hey guys, let me tell you about the time I got jumped outside Carl's Jr. And so what I have here, and again, you don't have to use them. The point is that you don't take my statements of intrigue because they're not yours. The point is that you create some statements of intrigue. So if I'm doing methods of persuasion or persuasive writing, I'll start class and say, hey guys, today I'm going to show you how to get free stuff. And now I got their curiosity. Remember, 2 to 3 seconds. Now it's my job to keep them interested. So then I tell them about a time when I had to write a complaint letter to a pizza place and got 5 free pizzas. And now they're like, okay. And then I have the students, I show them exactly how to write business letters. We write business letters, we know this. How to use methods of persuasion, right? Ethos, pathos, logos, etc., audience. But I give them a real, tangible letter that worked for me, and I know it works for me. What I had was this. So I started with that. A couple days later, first time I ever taught that, a couple days later, I had Armando, great guy. Armando goes, Mr. Thomas! I'm like, what's up, Armando? And he goes, remember that complaint letter a couple weeks ago you told us how to write? I'm like, yeah. He goes, my sister used it for KFC. She got a stack of free chicken and free sides coupons in the mail. And I said, that's awesome. What was wrong with her order originally? And he goes, nothing. She just wanted to see if it would work. Right. And that was the beginning of it. Because then from then on, I had students tell me, hey, I got an issue with the security guard at Magic Mountain. They gave me 3 free passes for me and my friends. I've got the letter to show you. They're trying to prove it to me, because we're English, right? Prove it. Where's the support? So they're proving it to me. I've had students get free Kindles. I've had, of course, free food. But I've had many get free things because they used the right method of persuasion. And it was real world value. But it started with that statement. So, if I'm doing financial literacy. Now, before you go, dude, you're an English teacher. Why are you teaching financial literacy? Because no one else at my school does it. And so I take 2 days, it's a little project, in my class and do it. And I start class like this today, or sometimes I'll do it at the end of previous class. Tomorrow, I'm going to show you guys the only legal guaranteed way to make you rich. See you tomorrow. That's my statement of intrigue. So I do those quite frequently. So I have a bunch of different examples there of mine. I'm not saying you should do them your way, but I just want to show you mine. Now, when I first started teaching, I had a whiteboard in the front of the room, and I don't know what it was used for. So I just started putting up puns and jokes, and I did it every day. And I didn't tell the students. So I have a list of like 186 days, 186 puns, because I kept writing them down, because I didn't want to look them up every day. And by day 3, they all knew it was there. And so what they would do every day, they'd come in, first thing they would do is look up there. Now I got them curious. And I put a whole document here, so if you want to use puns of the days, you don't have to look them up. You just copy and paste mine. If this were a math session, I'd say do Math Meme Monday. If this were science, I'd say do some science memes and put them up. And we talk about the importance of memes a little bit. But have fun with that. It's something where as soon as they walk in their class, they're looking for it. And if I don't put one up, they get mad. Mr. Thomas, where's the joke today? So they do pay attention to that. How many of you are Star Wars people? Where's our Star Wars people at? Awesome. If you're a Star Wars person at home, be a Star Wars person in class. Get excited about that, right? Use a Star Wars crawler to create your daily agenda. Students are going to love that. They're going to look forward to it every single day. Remember, we're trying to create dopamine for our class. We're trying to get them excited about our class. Check-in slides. So my great instructional partner, Julie Harris, has put together 30 check-in slides. How many of you use check-in slides? Quite a few have. Okay, it's amazing. I wouldn't do this every day. Again, it would take away the impact. But essentially, you once a week on Monday, like, hey guys, that is kind of small here. Which one are you guys? 1 through 9 or whatever. I've done a lot of check-in slides. No, she did the work. Sorry, she did all the work. I linked the check-in slides for you. You can use them every Monday or so. There's a bunch of different ones. There's even a heavy metal one there. Or if you're like me, I like to do check-in questions. And so I've only started with one so far because of sake of time. But for me, it was when I was doing a meeting and I started with this one. What's the song or band or music genre that reflects how you feel right now? Check-in questions. And so use those. It's great ideas. It's great stuff. Again, my job is to show you how to spark some creativity with your students or curiosity. That being said, let's play a game. I use games a lot in class, once a month. When I say a lot, once a month. Again, not too often or it starts to lose impact. So I use games a lot. I have a bunch of really interesting, fun, lame games depending on your sense of humor. But I wanted to play one with you right now. How many of you guys teach Edgar Allan Poe? Where's our Poe people? All right, so we do Poe in 9th grade. We do Raven and Annabelle Lee. And so here's what I do. So I'm going to play the Poe game with you. And what I like to do when I do this is, sorry, let me share this with you. So what I like to do is this. Now, what would happen is, creating dopamine. Students come in, I'm about to start Poe. I do this, I say, Joey, do me a favor, drop the lights, please. Joey turns the light off. And I say, let's play the newest game of Soup in the Nation. And then I turn this on and the students yell out the name of the game. So now the name tends to be really long. It's just my sense of humor. It tends to have some puns in it. But do you guys mind humoring me and playing along with me on this one? So pretend you haven't seen this. So when I say, let's play the newest game of Soup in the Nation, do you guys mind enthusiastically and very loudly saying the name of the game in some type of cadence? I know it's kind of long. Pretend you're 9th graders, because they love this stuff. Let's play the newest game of Soup in the Nation.
Let's look at the ups and downs of Poe's life. Not Poe the Kung Fu Panda or Poe the Teletubby, but Edgar Allan Poe, the famous poet who didn't even know it, unless he did know it. Taco Tuesday.
Obviously, it was a Tuesday that I did this. But what I did was to create background with an author, rather than, okay, let's read their biography. I'll take the important parts of the biography and I'll put it somewhere, somehow. This is what I did with Poe's life. Whenever you see a slide that says, yay, do you mind saying yay? If you see the slide that says, oh, do you mind saying oh, after I read the slide? So, Poe was born in 1809, giving his parents and the world an incredible author.
Yay!
You guys are amazing, thank you. Poe's parents died 3 years later.
Aww.
Oh no! Oh, I know, thank you for that. Poe's adopted by a rich family.
Yay!
His adopted parents disown him.
Aww.
Before they disown him, they sent him to a great college.
Yay!
With only enough money to cover a third of the expenses.
Aww.
You get the idea. Now, there's like 15 more slides of this. But it shows the ups and downs of Poe's life. Now, here's the thing. You guys are English teachers, so you're going to get this. I always say, I tell my students this, look, unless we know the background of the author and what the author is going through at the time that he wrote the poem and the time that, before the time he wrote, to see what his background, now what he's thinking of, we can't accurately analyze the poem. Because if you've ever done Raven and Annabelle Lee together, you might misinterpret or misanalyze it if you don't know what happened in Poe's life. So I'm a big believer in that. Now, tell a 13-year-old, let's go research an author before then we jump into poetry, right? Not the most engaging unless you do it in a way that's a little more engaging. Now, I will say one thing. I've left a bunch of different games here. And so you can look through it on your own time, just for sake of time. But I want to do one more thing again, just to show kind of, again, my personality. I'm not saying I would rather that you didn't take these and put them in your class because it wouldn't be authentic. Your students know you, but adjust it in a way that fits you or make them the way you would want to. So I do poetry with music a lot. I'll explain that in a couple of minutes. And so whenever I use music, I have them write their own rap or song. And then if they want to, they can perform it in class for extra credit. We do our poetry slam. That's part of our poetry slam. If you ever do a poetry slam in class, it's amazing. Poetry slams are like rap battles. If you've ever been one or done one, whatever. And so sometimes I'll have students they can do a rap battle at their poetry slam, a positive rap battle, positive things only. Too much negativity in the world. So it's hilarious when you get two people trying to one-up each other constantly. It's amazing. But what I'll do when they're writing their song, so I'm a big believer in this. Some days we just have to write the essay, right? I don't give homework. Studies will show homework is not effective unless you're a math teacher 20 minutes a day, et cetera, whatever. So, but I want to break up that 52 minutes of straight writing. So I tend to do something fun at the beginning before we go into, like, if we have a day where we have to do one thing all day. And so when they're writing their song, their rap, their poem, I start class like this. This is how my mind works. Bear with me. It's almost Rebus puzzle-like, where they have to decide what that picture, what type of music it represents. So, knowing the theme of for you when you came in early, hearing the music, can I ask you, just feel free to yell out, what type of music does that represent?
Heavy rock.
Rock, yeah, awesome, it's rock, nice. Okay, this one tends to be hard. Props to you guys who get this. If you don't like that kind of rock, oh, sorry, there was the answer, rock, you got it, nice. If you don't like that rock, what about this rock?
Igneous rock.
Ooh, I was going to say alternative, but that's pretty good too. That's so much better than my answer, alternative rock. Oh my gosh. Okay, what about that one?
Rap.
Rap. You guys are amazing. All right, it is
There's
rap.
activity.
Nice. What about this one? Pop. It is. Perfect. Oh, you guys are music people. Blues. Okay, let's get to a really dumb one that's just going to blow your mind. All right. Oh, wait, okay, seriously. Gotta represent, right? Okay, so we're going to get, and this, my students, they know this about me, right? So let's get to some really...
Orchestra.
It is, and I gave away the answer, but that's the amount, right? It is orchestra. Okay, one more.
Wipers.
Dude, you're gonna groan.
What is it on the right?
You're gonna
Is
groan.
it gangster rap?
It is gangster rap. It's gangstar rap. Get it? All right. Anyway. So, point is, when you create the cure, again, it takes 3 minutes when class starts, and then we go into what we're doing for the theme. So I also have Rebus puzzles there, debates. I love doing fun debates that are no pressure. Like, hey guys, does someone mind? Two people coming up debating something that you have no clue what it is, and you don't know what side it's going to be on. And the students go, sure, why not, right? So they come up, and I'm like, okay, Doritos, Takis, you think Takis are better? You think Doritos are better? Go, 30 seconds. And then they have to come up with stuff on their own. It's completely fun. The students love it. It's supportive. I don't force anyone to get up here. Sometimes I'll be like, hey, if it's a guy and a girl, I'll be like, hey, it's harder growing up being a teenage girl, or it's harder growing up being a teenage guy. And they have these debates, and it's fun, and everyone laughs, and it's just amazing. Great way to start class if you're doing speeches, right? Nice way to get into that. So that's curiosity, and that's a majority of what we'll spend time is a curiosity, because everything is based on that. So once you've got them curious, now, how do you keep them? You keep them by enjoyment with achievement. Students have to keep enjoying what they do and feel like they're getting better at it. They're more apt to continue. If you play an instrument, if you play the same song for 2 years, pretty soon you're just going to give up. When I started presenting these neuroscience workshops, if I didn't update my information and get better at it, I was just going to stop doing it. Right? This session I updated. Neuroscience is moving so quickly. Enjoyment with achievement. So when you have these students who come to you that aren't at the level of writing that you want them to be, you don't go, you need to be here. They're going to give up. You go, nice job. Awesome. This is amazing. You're doing great. Oh my gosh, you're the best ever. And then they get there. Let me show you scientifically. So, Dr. Scott Boland, this is what his research team does. There's a high correlation between how familiar you are with something and how much enjoyment you get from it. So, we know this. When you're teaching your students something and they feel good, there's a point where they know it already and then they start to get wiggly. We know that part of class, right? We should have switched 30 seconds earlier. If you hear a song, you're like, this song's amazing, but after a while you hear it too much and you're like, yeah, all right, I'm done. But if something's not familiar at all, there's no correlation with enjoyment at all. So with the students that have never had a good writing support in their class, and you're like, hey guys, 5-paragraph essay, it's got to be here, go. And they're like, can you help me with a sentence? Right? They don't even get started. And so if we want to keep our students engaged in class, get them curious, keep them interested, and make sure that as they're achieving it, or as they're enjoying it, they're also achieving it. That's what video game designers do. That's why they hire neuroscientists and behavior psychologists to work at video games. Because they know how to keep students interested and feel like they're achieving and accomplishing something. and learning as they go. So this is how the brain remembers. So we talked about how the brain learns. How does the brain remember? This all ties in together. So the brain will remember information if it feels that it's valuable enough. We know because we all went to college. Yet we only remember the information that's valuable to us. We all took classes that we studied for, and we probably got A's in, sure, but couldn't remember the information now. Because our brain didn't find it valuable. It's not us, it's our brain doing it. So that first step is if the brain finds it interesting, it will start to remember it better. The first step, curiosity. Second step of efficient learning, connecting the information. Now, for us, we're English teachers, quick writes. That's a big thing. There's many other things, of course. But because I'm talking to English teachers, we do quick writes, which is a great way to do it. But here's the thing. If you imagine, to use a metaphor, if you imagine the brain like a tree, has a bunch of branches. Whenever you learn a new piece of information, a new tree branch grows. Whenever we teach our students something, a new tree branch grows, a neural pathway. If you know anything about gardening, for a tree to survive, you got to water it, and it needs to have roots. For information to be remembered by our brains and our students, it's not just them, it's us. For any of us to remember stuff, we have to water it, meaning the information that gets repeated a lot, that's the stuff we remember. And I don't mean like the whole 7 times to memorize, because that's a myth. Right? You can learn information based on context and background knowledge. You can learn information immediately, or you can stare at it 1,000 times and still not remember it. So don't buy into the whole thing of the 7 times. What we need to do is root the information that we're sharing. First of all, let me take a step back. Less is more. Right? We can't throw tons of stuff at our students. Throw the most important stuff there that we want them to remember, and root that in with something it already knows. I'm going to show you how we do that in English. And we use a lot of quick writes, but I'll show you that too. If you don't repeat information, I don't mean throughout the week, I mean throughout the year, and connect it with something that the students already know, it's more prone to synaptic pruning. Yes, that's a real term. You know how in a tree, if the branch isn't getting water or it's not rooted, it's just going to fall off. It's going to die. You're going to prune it and get rid of it because it's dead. That's what happens to information. Usually within 24 to 48 hours, our brain starts to forget information that it doesn't find valuable. Which is why I say this respectfully, which is why math is so difficult to learn and remember. Because our brain starts to delete it within 24 to 48 hours. You don't believe me? Look at the math scores. It's not that they're dipping. They're flat for the past 40 years. There's no peaks in value because it's hard for the brain to remember because it's very situationally specific. If we teach grammar without context, if we teach vocab on Monday and give them a test on Friday, without rooting that information and making it important for the brain to know, they're going to forget it. It's not their fault. If their brain's just going to go, I need to repurpose those cells for more valuable information, I'm going to let that go. So synaptic pruning, very big thing in learning. So when you're doing prior knowledge, quick writes, there's a way to do it. So how do we use prior knowledge in the classroom? How to establish the rooting the information? 3 main things. 1, if we want our students to be interested in what we're teaching, we need to give them an interesting topic. We have to make sure the topic is it. There's a reason why most students love mythology. How many of you teach Romeo and Juliet in 9th grade? Okay, cool. The way you frame Romeo and Juliet, students can love it. Because forbidden love. Ooh, my mom doesn't want me to date. Ooh, your mom. Anyway, so we can frame it, right? Forbidden, we can frame it and get an interesting topic. So try to frame every topic you're teaching in some way that's interesting for a 14-year-old or whatever level you teach. Again, I teach 9th graders, some of you just using that. Begin with an interesting and relevant story. You've got to connect stories. So we do quick writes, right? So rather than giving a question, if you want your students to take it seriously and find it valuable, give your information first. If you're asking students personal information, give your personal information up first. So if I'm teaching Scarlet Letter, I have a big T on my chest, I tape a T on my chest, and they go, dude, why do you have a T on your chest? Curiosity. Then I tell them about the time I got arrested when I was 14. And I talk about how I got arrested for shoplifting, and I tell the story. I tell a 2-minute story. This is where 2 and 2 means. Don't tell a 7-minute story. No one's interested in your 7-minute story. 2-minute story. 2-minute story of how I got arrested shoplifting when I was 14. Now I've made the story relevant to them and interesting to them. Then I tell them a 2-minute story. Then I give them a 2-minute question. When's the time that you did something you felt ashamed afterward for. Or if you're like me, I write the same quick write 3 different ways, so I don't have a student go, I've never experienced that. Like, I'll frame it in a way that will connect to them somehow. The reason I say 2 and 2, that's important to know. Sometimes we give way too long for quick writes. They're called quick writes, the initial thoughts. They're not reflection writes. My master teacher, I promise you this is true, my master teacher, when I was student teaching 20 years ago, did a Romeo and Juliet quick write, gave them 25 minutes. I swear that's true.
Oh my gosh.
After 10 minutes and the kids were like riled up, he went and yelled at them, told them they need to work on their quick write, and then talked to me in the back. That a quick write's 2 minutes, 2 minutes, 2 minutes, that's it. Writing prompts. There's teachers I know that'll do writing prompts at the very beginning of class. Please don't ever call anything a bell ringer. Don't call it bell work. Don't call it warm-up. Because to students it means busy work. Tie it in with the lesson. It's not a bell ringer. It's part of the lesson. The way you phrase it is so important. So I would stay away from bell ringer, warm-up. Don't call it anything like that because you want to show value. If you're doing a writing prompt, I would not do 10-minute writing prompt. That happens a lot. Hey, 10 minutes, write on this. Now, if it's really, because usually it takes 3 minutes to write and 7 minutes to stay off task, or 7 minutes to stay off task or 3 minutes to write. Now, before you go, no, I justify it because I give them 7 minutes or whatever to think about it before they write. Well, that's a different type of writing, right? That's reflection. Then we should structure that a little more. And make sure if you ever ask your students to write on a prompt, give your response first. Because then you're modeling what you want to see from them. And you're being vulnerable, and students respect that. So, this ties into how do we get our students to respond in class. Because that's a big thing now. My students they're not engaged. How do I get them to talk? Well, first of all, make the topics interesting. But there's a lot of behavioral psychology to how you get your students to talk in class. There's a big list of stuff. I'm just going to focus on the top 4. First of all, make sure the topics and questions are relatable for whatever your level is. That's a huge thing. Show vulnerability. If I ask my students to respond to a question, I need to give my story first and make sure it's relevant for 14-year-old. I was at a workshop once when the person was talking about quick writes. He told a 10-minute story about how he couldn't find his daughter. They were playing hide and seek. 10 minutes he's describing about finding his daughter. I didn't have a kid at the time. I got bored after 3 minutes. Then he gave us 10 minutes to write about something. I don't even remember. I had no connection with that. Imagine us telling that story to a 14-year-old or a 7-year-old or whatever your level is. So make sure the stories are relevant. Invite your students to respond rather than demand. Here's the thing. The way you phrase it is so important with whether our students respond to us. Remember I talked about action, prediction, reaction? So day 1, the way you respond to that first student that raises his hand, everybody's brain is watching that. So when you ask a class, hey guys, so I was being vulnerable. I gave my story, I gave my prompt, I asked them to write. Then I say, guys, does someone mind please? What do you think about this or this? Or when was the time then? Notice how I stepped forward, raised my eyebrows. I didn't do it purposely because that's creepy. Hey guys! It was natural, right? It was natural. Like, step forward, like I mentioned, open hands are so important. And scan. I don't look at your faces. I look at this introvert. This is how I cope with things. I don't look in your eyes because it's weird. It's so weird. So I look at your foreheads, right? So I scan the classroom. I'm sure many of you do that without even knowing. You probably look at your students' foreheads. And so what you don't want to say is, who wants to share? Because remember, 75% of us were observers, reflectors. We kind of want to share, but we don't want to be the ones like, we don't want to make the decision. Yeah, I want to share, me! Because that's not us. Or even this, does anyone have any questions? Because now we have to decide if we have a question or not. Even if we did have a question, we don't want to be that person. Yep, I have a question. So if we phrase it more like this, what questions do you guys have? Right? Now I'm being the vulnerable one. What questions do you have? My arms are open, fingers extended, I'm stepping forward. So if I'm like, dude, Gatsby and his affair and Tom and Daisy, what up with that? What do you guys think of whatever? So I'm asking a question. I've already given my story. I'm opening my hands up. Joey responds. Now is key. Now I need to praise. First of all, when he responds, I got to praise him for doing that. Dude, Joey, thank you so much. So what do you guys, if someone doesn't mind sharing this and this, Joey, thank you. I praised him for responding because he helped me out. Then I listen attentively. If it's a happy story, I'm like, dude, that's awesome, right? If it's sad, I'm like, oh my gosh, right? I'm responding to his story because he's vulnerable right now. Then afterward, so I praised him for raising his hand and answering in the first place. Afterward, I go, dude, Joey, thank you so much. Every student saw that. I just praised Joey. I gave him dopamine. I gave him oxytocin, which is empathetic if it's a story that I need to show empathy of. I gave him neuromodulators. He likes that. He likes dopamine. He likes the happy part that I gave him. So now other students will see that and they'll go, wow, I want the praise that Mr. Thomas gave to Joey. This is all subconscious. They don't think this. This is all biological. So I want that. So next, and then they go, wow, when Joey raised his hand, Mr. Thomas didn't say, go ahead. Go ahead. You were asking what? Because the way we phrase things is so important. What do you guys think about this? Does anyone like, oh, Joey, thank you. They go, wow, he thanked him. They want that. So now that I've, Joe, oh, thank you so much. Guys, who else? Someone else raises their hand because they want to feel good about themselves. I praise them. Oh, awesome, thank you. I praise them before, I praise them, I listen during, I praise them afterward. Sometimes I'll overpraise if I've never heard it. I've talked about that before. Sometimes I'll expand on a student's great story or great idea. Dude, Joey, can I expand on your great idea? Oh yeah, it was a great idea, and I'll expand. What I don't do is hijack the story. Joey's vulnerable, he shares a story or he shares an answer, and I go, oh, I totally know. Back when I was, and then I just took over his spotlight. So we want to be careful of that there. So that's how you get, now that's the short version of how to get students to respond in class. Set up an environment where they're comfortable, because they know every time you ask a question, they put their hand up, their brain's now predicting that it's a safe environment for them to respond in, and that they're going to get praise and they're going to feel good. And then when they do have a question, they're not going to be like, I said that already. What? Oh no. They're like, yeah, question. Oh yeah, of course. Oh, great question. Right? And then go on. Also, when you have the independent work, please do monitor the classroom and walk around, because the observer reflector like me likes when someone comes by. So if I have a question, I just go, teacher, versus, yo, teacher, I got a question. The students that are across the room from you don't always have the confidence to raise their hand. That's why it's good to walk around. So the one that does have a question, hey, teacher, they don't have to like announce it to everybody. So how the brain remembers, if it thinks it's vulnerable or valuable, if the brain finds it interesting and when it connects to something it already knows. Once we've established those quick rights, then getting our students to respond, how we do it is so very important. Third component of efficient learning, creating a pattern. So we spark curiosity, right? We have created a connection with something they already know through quick rights.
Hey everyone, Matt Thomas here. Thanks for watching.
Sorry.
No problem.
Recent workshop that I did.
Dude, that sounds like me. Wait. Now we create a pattern. Now here's the thing about English teachers. Our whole entity is about creating patterns. I don't know if I said that right. We create patterns in our writing. So creating a pattern is great because the brain learns most efficiently by patterns. The brain loves patterns. That's why we sit in the same place when we go to workshops. We drink the same coffee. We take the same route to work, granted, because it's the quickest, whatever. We tend to date the same people. We tend to do the same things. We tend to act the same way. We tend to adjust how we act based on who we're with. Does that sound familiar? That's because the action, prediction, reaction, we adjust. So going back to what we said earlier, if you have a student that's always challenging, and you create that respect for that student by showing this great action, they predict that you're going to be respectful to them, they will slowly adjust how they act towards you. Because it's just how we do it. But going back to creating a pattern. So how to create patterns in the classroom. So I have linked here a way that I hide my essays. So in my class, we write over 20 essays a year. Before you go, dude, that sucks. No, the way we do it is I hide the essays to where the students don't know they're writing essays. They know the 4 big essays that we write, the analysis, the synthesis, they know that. But we do Axes paragraph writing, so I'm going to reference that. Axes, ACEs, Step Up to Writing, Jay Schaefer, whatever. Just frame it in the way you do it. And so if I'm having the students do an argument, give an example, explain it, and then significance or long-term impact, I do it in multiple different writing sessions throughout the year. So if I did this the way I think I did, I either link the video. Okay, so I've got 20 different ways that I do that, but let me show you this really quickly. So here's my example. One of the things that I have them write is I have them towards the end of the year, once we've created this great, amazing relationship in our class, I do the circle of friends is what I call it, where they have to take themselves and 4 of their friends and identify the role that each one of them plays in their lives, right? In their personal life. Which one's the motherly one, which one's the sarcastic one, which one's the, whatever, etc. Advice giver, etc. Then they have to give an example, a specific example of a time when that person, reflected that. Then they have to explain how that example supports, you guys here, we're English teachers, you see the pattern. And then talk about if that person continues with that trait, how can it can impact their long-term success or impact them in the future. That's an essay paragraph, right? And I have them do it with themselves and for their friends. And then for the really fun part is I have them sketch their friends out. That's the part they love because they're laughing because some of them can't draw. They're terrible like I am. But they do it on each piece of paper. So if I put it together, it's an essay. All I have to do is add an intro and a conclusion paragraph. It becomes an essay. The students don't know it's an essay. That's one of the 20 different writing projects we do that the students love, but they don't know they're writing essays. So hide your essays. If you want more specifics, please watch the video I linked there. Teaching poetry. So how to create patterns in class, teaching poetry that your students will love. Here's the thing. I'm going to give you the 30-second background because it's all the time I have of this. 30-second background of my background. I grew up in a writing family. My mother's a world-renowned haiku poet. No, there's no money in being a world-renowned haiku poet. But I grew up in that way. I grew up with writing and poetry. I see poetry different than most people who didn't grow up that way. So when I came into the classroom and I opened the textbook and I looked at poetry, I went, dude, this is it? This is the type of poetry we're trying to teach? Where's the fun and engagement and enjoyment? So I have students come in who hate poetry. And I tell you, at first day, I'm like, how many of you guys hate poetry? And they're like, oh, I do. And I'm like, no, you love it. You just don't know it yet. And now it's my job to convince you of it. And then we talk music. And we know, because we're English teachers, music's the number one most popular. When I say music, I say songwriting. Yeah, I'm sure you know what I mean. Yeah. The most popular form of poetry around the world, bar none, there's no close second. Because we listen to music all the time. Our students quote poetry all the time. I just have to convince them of that. Because I don't think any other teachers ever taught them that. And I don't mean mentioned it once in class. I mean literally taught entire units around it. And so if you click that, I've got 9 different poetry things that the students love to do, including rap, it has me rapping at some point when I do the figurative language slideshow that you can see later on. But if you want to see different ways to teach poetry, that's going to be different than the textbook. Because remember, I didn't grow up with the textbook. I grew up from a writer's family. So I see it a little differently. When the textbook says write a short story, my mother owned a publishing company. My classes with writing short stories is very specific and different than what a textbook would say. Start with a hook. So feel free to look at those. And as far as poetry goes. So let me explain why, with the remaining time we have, why students have difficulty with certain things. And this is very important to know so that as teachers, we don't get too frustrated when our students aren't there yet. As a 9th grade teacher, I'm the gatekeeper for high school. For my students come from 8th grade to me. I don't care who taught them before. I don't know who taught them before. I don't know what they come in with. It doesn't matter to me because I'm going to get them where I want them to be. I don't even care about the pre-diagnostic tests because I know how tests work. I know they're not accurate indicators of IQ. I know that it's summer. They're not going to remember this stuff anyway. I don't care because I'm going to teach them everything throughout the year. And so knowing that, as I mentioned before, our state standards don't always align with brain development, how the brain is developed. Analysis is one of those. So, short version. The frontal lobe is the part of the brain that allows us to organize and analyze. That doesn't matter. The important part is how can we apply it to class on Monday. The amygdala, which is not the area that analyzes emotions, but it's thought to be that way, so I'm going to frame it in a way. The amygdala is part of a network that supports emotional neuromodulators. A main focus of the amygdala is to decide whether a new experience is worth remembering or not. But that's beside the point. The amygdala matures at 17. So when you've got something that is part of a network that supports emotion maturing at 17, but the analysis part of the brain and the organizational part of the brain doesn't mature until mid-20s, late 20s, early 30s. That's why students go, dude, that movie sucked. Can I put that in the essay? No, you have to analyze this. I don't get it. Because their brain isn't there yet. That's why if you, like me, you went to college later in life, essay writing was a little bit easier. Because that part of the brain was matured already. So, the way I grade is, when I'm big on, remember, patterns and models. I'm going to show them exactly what I want them to write. And I'll give them those sentence frames. I mean, little bits and pieces, right? And I will grade essays, especially at the beginning of the year, based on format heavily. Analysis, as long as the effort's there. We know as teachers what effort looks like, right? We know, like if someone puts the effort in. And I will tell them that, guys, I'm telling you right away, first essay of the year, this format, axis paragraph, do this, you'll get an A. And make sure your analysis is like you're trying. Second one, same type of thing. Third, and then I start to go a little more as they get later in the year, right? I grade a little more on analysis, but I really do heavy on format, the first part, because if I do my job well, the 10th grade teacher doesn't have to teach axis paragraph writing. They can allow the brain, the frontal lobe to start maturing. By the time they're 11th and 12th grade, their analysis is pretty good. But the format they've already memorized because they had me. So, next thing, the reason writing is much more difficult to speak. Have you ever had a student go, I know what I want to say, I just don't know how to write it yet? That's very valid. It's because, remember the brain likes patterns? We all know how to communicate up here. We speak all the time. But we're asking our students to like, oh my gosh, that's an amazing idea. Now take it, either make it smaller, brevity, or expand it, put it in a format that I want, well not really me, education wants, but whatever. Now, add an intro and a conclusion paragraph, take the words, what you said wasn't that good, adjust it the way I want you to say it, and go. That's a pattern the brain doesn't know. And it's not something that they always use. We always speak. It's the reason why intro and conclusion paragraphs are so difficult to write. In 9th grade, when I'm sitting in my department meetings and they're like, oh, my students don't know how to write intro paragraphs, those middle school teachers, and I'm like, no, we all teach intro paragraphs. Every middle school teacher has done it. The thing is, though, their brain doesn't, remember I talked about synaptic pruning? We don't speak in intro paragraphs, because that's weird. Hi, my name is Matt, and I'm about to talk about barbecue, ninjas, and football. And then we don't speak, and then we don't do conclusions. As I clearly stated, we don't do that. So it's not a pattern their brain finds valuable enough to remember. The reason I'm saying that is, when you're teaching intro paragraphs, please understand that. And give the pattern, hey, this is how you write an intro paragraph. Boom, 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 do it. I want to hear your stuff. I tell students, I don't care about this intro, I don't care. I want to hear your argument. So here's the pattern, and I give it to them. There's a pattern, I don't care. Here's a conclusion paragraph, whatever. By the time the person's read your essay, by the time they get the conclusion paragraph, they've already graded it anyway. So just make sure the conclusion paragraph isn't terrible, and I give them a pattern. So it's okay to do that, no matter what grade you teach, because it's against a pattern that their students already know, or don't know, sorry. Why reading is so difficult. This is a whole session by itself. But the 1-minute version of it is this. If teachers knew how difficult reading is in the first place. I did a 2-year research. Linked is a 2-hour video of all of my research. If you're having trouble sleeping, watch it. But it will explain everything as why reading is difficult. It'll explain to you where the reading levels come from. Spoiler alert, they're human-made by a group of consultants that have decided that they need to reevaluate. If you want to know more about reading than you ever thought you did, you could teach a workshop on it by watching my video. Seriously, coaches, you explain everything. The thing is, the short version is, our brain is not, we're not born with the ability to read or capability to read. We are born, now elementary school teachers, you're amazing. Because you know, some parents have supported reading, so they come in with reading. Some parents haven't, and a lot of it is starts in the family in the womb. But long version, short version, the visual part and the language network of our brain have to make a baby and create a whole new network that some parents haven't started when they get to you. And you elementary school teachers have 30 plus students. Gosh, you guys are amazing. You have to try to create this network. Every child's going to be different. So if you want the whole reason as to why, any growth is good. Let's say that. Any reading growth when your students have with you is meant to be praised. Because we don't always understand how difficult reading is, because maybe we had the support there. But seriously, it's not even part of our brain yet. We have to create that. So, let me go to the fourth and final element. The way the brain learns most efficiently is when we apply something that we're teaching to the real world. A little bit different than project-based learning. Though project-based learning is awesome, a little bit different. It is literally when I taught my students methods of persuasion and I applied it to a complaint letter that they can use in their real life. That's what I mean by real world application. So let me do a real quick thing here. How many of you did a career before becoming a teacher? Okay, you guys, you're okay, awesome. So one of the teachers that I'm working with, she's like, I need something. And I said, cool, you didn't teach out of high school, right? She goes, no. I said, what'd you do? And she said, I was the person that would write checks for people when they got injured at an insurance company or whatever. And I said, so let me get this straight. Let me ask, when someone wrote a really good write-up, did you get more money? Did they get more money? And they said, yeah. And I said, that's an amazing way to teach your students methods of persuasion, right? Say this, right? Show them how a well-written insurance letter is, have them write one, and then award them fake money by how they use their great methods of persuasion. So whatever you did in your life, apply that to the classroom. I know we're short on time, so I'm going to say this. I'm going to break the myth thing. I have lesson plans for you guys, all based on what we talked about. I have lesson plans to start. I have lesson plans to get your students going. I have lesson plans for the main part of your lesson and how to do a finisher. No, you don't need a ticket out the door, or you don't need a thing checked. The brain doesn't understand, like, what do they call it? Exit tickets? Even if people tell you you don't, the brain doesn't need that, because sometimes we know lessons don't finish within an hour. They go within a week or sometimes a month, whatever. So there's all the lesson plan stuff there. I will say this. Oh, also, for those who are like, why does my teenager talk back to me? She doesn't talk back to you. She's modeling. Here's all my links to why teenagers do what they do. I will say this respectfully too. If you ever want me to come in and support you and help you with your teachers or talk to your teachers or your district, my district lends me out. They're very good with that. If you ever want to be linked to a list, a resource list that I send out, you guys have tons of stuff in here. I send out a bunch more. Feel free to go to that and put your name in. It's not spam. It's literally like, we're all coaches, right? So like, we've all done great work. Why don't we share this stuff? Also, there's a link to my YouTube channel. You guys are amazing. Thank you so much. We're at time's